When it comes to sexual behaviour, it's a complex issue that involves a lot of different factors. So we know that young people learn about sex through watching porn. They're not learning about pleasure and how sex works through sex education a lot of the time. So they look at porn, and porn doesn't really depict the use of condoms or dental dams. And so, this sets the scene. This sets up a sexual script that doesn't include safety, right? And often doesn't include consent or mutual pleasure either. And what that means is that when they're having sexual experiences, they're prioritising what feels good rather than the safety of the other person, the needs of the other person, and potentially their own safety.
So can you describe for me, what is the stigma surrounding STI? What does it feel like? How does that play out?
So a lot of people will talk about STIs being associated with being dirty or having some sort of moral judgment attached to it. We know, or that it's only for people who have lots of sex. But in reality, you can have sexual contact once and contract an STI. You can be in a monogamous relationship and contract an STI. So really, it's so important that we work towards normalising the discussion of STIs and that we reduce the shame and stigma attached to talking about them.
So we have this new campaign. What's your take on it?
So research indicates that when we are conducting campaigns to promote testing for STIs, it's actually less effective to focus on fear and risk and more effective to prioritise and represent pleasure as part of the campaign. And so what I think this campaign does really well is it puts testing in the context of a sexual pleasurable relationship. So that's depicted within the ad. If we think about some of the campaigns in the 1980s, they were really fear-based. So they made people afraid of STIs. And when sex was talked about, it was talked about in relation to risk and fear. And as I mentioned, we know that that's not actually effective in the long term if we're looking at sexual health holistically, rather than just, reducing people from having sex, which is not the way forward.
So how are dating apps involved in the messaging?
Yeah, so part of the new government campaign includes messaging on some of the most common dating apps, which is fantastic. So we know that a lot of young people are meeting people and having sex through dating apps. And so bringing testing to the forefront of their mind and prompting people that this can be part of the initial conversations that they have with someone before they have sex is permitted, and important. By having conversations, by bringing it to the forefront, if we think about chlamydia, gonorrhoea and syphilis, they're all treatable by antibiotics. So as long as people are getting tested regularly, they can pick it up and they can get treated.
These two feel pretty stoked right now. Is it because they just had great sex? Or because they used a condom? Was it the chilling before that? Or because it felt like the perfect match? Maybe. Or maybe they felt safe doing the best part because they regularly do the test part. Yeah, that's it. Make STI testing your Beforeplay. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.